هلا نحن بورشتنا اليوم رح نحكي عن أحد الركائز للتعليم في الطوارئ. الركيزة اللي بدنا نحكي عنها اليوم زي ما شفنا القصص وسمعنا معاناة أطفالنا بهاي المنطقة، واللي هي ممكن الولد يدخل على المدرسة ويكون فائد أمه أو أبوه، ممكن يكون صاير انفجار قدام بيته، ممكن هو الولد نفسه يكون عانى كل هاي المآسي وطبعا الضغوطات النفسية أو التروما اللي بمرقوا فيها الأطفال. بهذا المجال نحن رح نحكي عن أحد الركائز لاجتماعنا لليوم، واللي هي تأمين البيئة الصحية الآمنة والدعم الاجتماعي والنفسي للمتعلمين في حالات الطوارئ. هلأ رح نكون نحكي لأنه هاي الأشياء هي اللي بتساعد الأطفال لحتى يشعروا إنه الحياة رجعت طبيعية، حتى يقدروا يدخلوا بالتعليم. رح نحكي اليوم عن 3 مبادرات قبل الكوفي بريك، فرح أرحب بأول مبادرة واللي هي رح تكون من Save the Children بفلسطين. رح أرحب بإيما ألفردسون من المدارس كمناطق سلام. بنرحب بإيما حتى تشاركنا بتجربة Save the Children بفلسطين. طبعاً بعد البرزنتيشن ممكن كمان تسألوها أسئلة ونجيب على أسئلتكم.
Good afternoon, everyone. Assalamu alaikum. Can you hear me like this? No? Okay, hi, perfect. Hi, everyone. My name is Emma, and I am the representative from Save the Children OPT in Palestine. I work in the Ramallah office, and I'm very thankful for being here today. It's my first experience in MENIT, and I hope to come back here for future purpose as well. I will give you a very short brief about one of our education and protection projects in Palestine. It's called the Schools as Zones of Peace, and as we said before, the time is very limited. If you have any questions, I would like you to ask them afterwards, and I'm also very happy to say that I have my core partner here today, the Ministry of Education in Ramallah. I have Mohammed Sami, Kahrama Narifa, and Taqwa Amer. Can you raise your hands, guys? Yay! Okay, cool. Yes. Give them an applause. Perfect. Our project's name is Schools as Zones of Peace, or Schools as Protected Areas, I would rather say. The main objective is enhanced resilience and protection of children in schools in the most vulnerable and conflict-affected communities in the OPT. This is a unique pilot. Is it possible to take down the light a bit? Because I think it's easier to see the screen, if that's possible. Thank you. This is a unique pilot. It's funded by Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Norway. Hopefully we get funding for 3 years. We just started out. This is an original concept that started more than 10 years ago. It's been introduced to several conflict-affected countries. And the main aim is to ensure access to violence-free schools in armed conflict and post-conflict situations. And of course, in Palestine, we contextualized it a bit. And I would also like to say that all the pictures are from the schools that we're working in the West Bank. These are the main objectives for the core concept Schools as Zones of Peace. And as you can see, it's all about protecting our students and our school staff to ensure quality education, reduce school closures caused by military use or political activities, مثلا, or reduce presence of armed forces in and around schools, to improve conflict resolution within schools and communities, improve protection of schools, students, and teachers, for example. And I will give you a bit of a background. This is from Cordoba School in Hebron. We made a baseline last year. A lot of our students in Palestine feel unsafe on their way to school, on their way back from school, and inside school. And as we all know, this affects negatively on their access to education, their psychosocial well-being, and their educational achievements. Unsafe learning environment in Palestine, and now I'm talking in the West Bank, not Gaza. Gaza is a specific context. But in the West Bank, the violations are mostly caused by external conflict-related threats, such as settler violence and checkpoints. Our male students, they are more exposed to risks when it comes to their physical security, settlers' violence, detention, and risk connected to political activism. Our female students are more vulnerable when it comes to gender-based violence and harassment. So both genders, both our boys and our girls in our schools in the West Bank are exposed to violence that affects their access to education, their enrollment rate, their psychosocial well-being, and of course their ability to learn. How many of you have been to Palestine? Hands up. Okay. Ahlan wa sahlan. For you who hasn't, this is what you get. 60% of the West Bank is controlled by Israeli. This means almost exclusive control, including law enforcement, planning, and construction. About 300,000 Palestinians reside in Area C, and about 340,000 settlers also live in about 200 outposts or settlements in Area C, and this is, as we all know, contradicting to IHL. The construction possibilities in Area C for Palestinians are very restricted. It's difficult to get a permit if you want to build a school, if you want to refurbish a school, if you want to restruct anything. You need a permit, and these permits are very scarce. This is a picture from Urif School. It's close to Nablus. And this school got attacked just 2 weeks ago by the settlement that you see up on the hill. So it's very close. So what are we doing then? This project, as I said, it's a pilot. It's new for us. We're trying to have a new approach. We call it Schools as Zones of Peace. We contextualized it into the Palestinian context, and we have 4 main components. The first one is an advocacy component that we are targeting the international community. We are trying to build up advocacy messages, stay out and stay away from our schools, keep our students safe. The second is that we are strengthening the MRM function. Inside the school, we will train students and teachers to keep perpetrators accountable. Our third thing we do is child-centered risk disaster reduction to increase preparedness and enhance the security in the schools. And we're also working with the child resilience approach with our local partner MAN to enhance the psychosocial well-being and make our kids and students more aware of their risks and also to cope with the stressful situations that they are living in. All of these components fit hand in hand with the National Education Strategy that was lined out this year, and it stretches out till 2019. And the main objectives that we are fulfilling is try to strengthen education continuity in a situation of emergency. So to talk a little bit about the advocacy component in this project, I don't know how many of you have heard about the Global Coalition to Protect Education from Attack. I think it was mentioned just briefly before. Last week, this organization, they were launching the last and final version of these guidelines. Prior it was called Lausanne's Guidelines. The final version is called Guidelines for Protecting Schools and Universities from Military Use During Armed Conflict. And these guidelines, they were drawn up with the aim to minimize the negative impact that an armed conflict has on our students' safety and education. And this process has taken about 16 months, and a lot of organizations, governments, countries, education in emergency stakeholders, protection stakeholders have been involved in this. And next week, or in 2 weeks, in December, all UN member states are invited to Geneva to discuss these guidelines and to draw up something that they would call a Safe School Declaration. In 2015, there's going to be a meeting in Oslo where all member states will discuss how to implement these guidelines. And in 2014, there's already been about 32 countries that have been briefed about these guidelines. And our aim is to contextualize this into Palestine and to advocate for safe schools within our project. We are also working with the MRM system. In our 10 schools, we are training our students and our teachers to report on violations to their education. What is a violation? What am I entitled to? What are my rights? The UN mandate, the resolution 1612, stated this MRM mechanism, monitoring and reporting mechanism, in 2005. And I don't know if any one of you read last year's report from the Security Council, but in their report, they say that there is 58 education-related incidents that is affecting about 12,000 students in the West Bank, 2013. And I think we all know that's been working in the West Bank that this is a huge underestimation. So we believe in to strengthen the MRM system to keep perpetrators accountable, and every violation that we would report on would help us to strengthen the protection for our kids with the international community's help to highlight this issue. And what I have here in front of me is something that is called the Comprehensive School Safety Guidelines. I do have a few copies of this. We just translated it into Arabic. This one is driven from the HFA, the Hyogo Framework for Action, with the purpose to assure universal access to quality basic education and to incorporate risk reduction into education. And the goals would be to protect learners and school staff from death, injuries, and harm, of course, but also to plan education continuity in the face of a hazard. Another goal is to safeguard education sector investments and also to strengthen resilience through education. So basically what we are doing in our 10 schools is a multi-hazard risk assessment. And this year, not talking about the coming funding that we hope that Norwell will give us, but this year we are focusing on pillar number 2 and pillar number 3 in our 10 schools. So we are focusing on school disaster management, to strengthen school staff to utilize existing resources to enhance coordination and community engagement to protect our schools. We are establishing school disaster management committees, and we are helping the teachers and the principals to develop standard operating procedures in a case of an emergency. It could be a fire, it could be a settler attack. We are developing emergency preparedness plans for the schools. We are doing risk and resource mapping with our children. You know, kids, they see things from another perspective that we grown-ups might not see. If you ask a child what is scary on the road to school, they might say that I always face settlers, dogs, on my road to school, مثلا. Something that a grown-up person wouldn't even think about because you're maybe a meter taller than the child. We are also trying to help the kids with drills and first aid trainings together with their teachers. And we're working closely, of course, with the Ministry of Education because we want to incorporate this into the existing policies of the Ministry of Education. So just my last slide, because now it's done. There is, of course, a lot of organizations. There is a lot of NGOs in Palestine, in OPT, and hundreds of thousands of projects and initiatives. So why is this unique? Why is this innovative? Because we believe that capacity building, coordination, and decentralization can create ownership for education continuity among students and school staff, community members, Ministry of Education, and the civil defense. We do believe that school disaster management structures can create a proactive response instead of a reactive response and increase the preparedness. And also, the MRM structure in our schools would highlight violations for accountability, protection, and advocacy. Yes. Sorry, that was a bit too long. Thank you, everyone, for listening. I'm sorry I was a bit lengthy. And as I said, if we have questions, maybe you could forward them to me afterwards, or even to the ministries I have with me from Ramallah.
Okay.
That's good? Yeah.
Thank you.
إذا كان هذا عرض لمبادرة المدارس كمناطق للسلام. قبل ما ننطلق للمبادرة اللي بعدها رح تيجي معنا هلا نسرين مكوك من لبنان تعمل لنا هالإنرجايزر. أخذنا قبل شوي نورهان من سوريا وهلا نسرين من لبنان. نتوقع بعد الكوفي بريك حدا من فلسطين يحضر لنا إنرجايزر بعد ما نرجع من الكوفي بريك. تفضلي نسرين.
شكرا رندا. اوكي سو حنعمل انرجايزر كتير صغير. حاطلب منكم انه انا حزقف زقفه فيها ريذم وانتم حتعيدوا الريذم وراي. التحدي اوكي
مطلوبة هون نسرين.
فينا نوقف كمان اذا بدكم تتنشطوا زياده، فينا كلنا نوقف. سو التحدي انا حزقف زقفه وبطلب منكم تعيدوا الزقفه بنفس الريذم ونفس التوقيت. اوكي لا اوكي حنرجع نبلش. لا بس خلص انتم بتبلشوا. اوكي بنرجع نبلش.
شكرا نسرين. إذا حدا من فلسطين بيطلع لنا بدبكة بالإنرجايزر الجاي بيكون كتير حلو. حلوة عندك خلص راجعين لك. أوكي رح ننتقل هلأ لحتى نتعرف على برنامج التعليم الأفضل في الأزمات الحالية Better Learning Program in Ongoing Crisis. هذا الحكي رح يكون تفرجينا إياه لورا مارشال من النرويجن ريفيوجي كونسل جوردن. لورا مارشال من المركز النرويجي للاجئين في الأردن. أهلاً.
This was a program that was originally developed by two educational psychologists from Norway. They developed the program while they were working with child soldiers in Uganda. And when they were talking to child soldiers who were re-entering education, and they asked them, how's it going? Are you okay going to classes? And the child soldiers said, yes, school is fine, but we just wish we could sleep. We have all of these terrible dreams. So these two psychologists took away this idea and started putting together a program for children who have chronic, repetitive, trauma-induced nightmares. At the same time, when we were working in Gaza in 2012, we started looking at the phenomenon of why children were leaving education early, why they were pushed out of education. And we started getting some interesting results from Beit Hanun in the north of Gaza. When we were asking children why they had left school, they gave us the usual reasons. They were failing their classes. But in Beit Hanun especially, we asked other questions about how the children slept, whether or not teenage children wet the bed, how many nightmares they had. And the responses that we got from Beit Hanun were the reasons that we decided to pilot this program that had been developed in Norway. Because what we heard from Beit Hanun was that children weren't sleeping at all. And I think there are lots of teachers sitting in the room who will be able to tell you that children who don't sleep don't learn. There's lots of reasons that children don't sleep in the Gaza Strip. I think we're familiar with most of them. Beit Hanun has historically always been a flashpoint in the north of Gaza. So we went there and we asked for volunteers, initially from UNRWA schools, 10 counselors and 10 teachers. And we trained them on something we like to call the better learning intervention for children with chronic repetitive sleep problems. And we didn't really know what we were going to get out of the experience because we weren't sure how big the problem was. So we trained 10 teachers with 10 counselors and we asked them to go back to their schools and to go round the classrooms and say that they were going to work with small groups of children on the issue of nightmares. And we asked them to explain that nightmares aren't a bad dream. Nightmares are dreams that are so bad you wake up in the middle of the night thinking that you're going to die with your heart pounding and you can't go back to sleep again. And so the teachers and the counselors were very accommodating to us, and they went back to the schools and they tried to set up a group for children with nightmares that we had asked them to do. And they went back to boys' schools and girls' schools, elementary schools, secondary schools, all schools. And then 6 weeks later, we asked them to come back and tell us what they had found. And 6 weeks later, they came back and they were shocked. They were shocked, first of all, by the prevalence of the problem. They said they walked around classrooms and they didn't know if any child would say they had a problem, but that children were coming forwards, parents had heard about the groups, they were coming to the schools and asking could their children be included in the groups. We asked 8 children for each group. Every group was oversubscribed after a week. The other thing that the teachers and counsellors were shocked by were the frequency of the nightmares. We asked the teachers to track the number of nightmares the child had a week. And for more than 50% of these children, they were having 5, 6, 7 nightmares a week. So these were children who never slept at all. Every single night of the week, they would wake up terrified. And they were also the children who were in trouble at school. They didn't concentrate, they didn't do their homework, they couldn't pay attention. And the teachers were surprised by this because these were students that they had actually given up on because they weren't interested in school. In the next session with the teachers and the counsellors, we trained them in a different methodology. We trained them in a classroom methodology. And this, we asked them to go back and to talk to their fellow teachers and ask the teachers could they train them in this classroom methodology. And this the teachers did. And we told them to tell the teachers this is a way of improving classroom management. It's a way of improving attention in the classroom, and it's a way of improving behavior. And that's what they told the teachers, and the teachers started using it. That's what they did. So I just want to show you a couple of pictures. These are the two manuals that we have. In the manual on the left, this is a classroom intervention for teachers to use in any classroom where they believe that there might be children who have the symptoms of trauma. On the right is the Better Learning Manual for Fighting Nightmares and Sleeping Problems. This is a manual specifically for children who have chronic repetitive nightmares. And the second manual should really be used with the help of a school counsellor. Both of these manuals are available in Arabic, and I'm happy to share hard or soft copies with anybody who's interested. This is some of the exercises that the classroom manual were teaching teachers to do with their students. It's nothing very complicated. It's breathing exercises, it's tense and release exercises. But what it does is it brings the students back into their physical bodies. Because the problem with children who have trauma, and in a situation like Gaza, the problem is huge, is that children get into a flight or fight mentality. Something terrible happens and their body reacts to save them. Their heartbeat goes, they go red in the face, they breathe too hard. It's what we all do when we're frightened. But when you have trauma, you can't turn that off. You effectively become divorced from your body. Something in your head can tell you there's a problem, and your body is overreacting and you panic. Or maybe you run too fast down the street and your heart starts going and your head tells you you must panic, because those things have become connected. So lots of the exercises are about getting children and young people and teachers as well to calm down, come back into their body and learn how to cope with those emotions. It's fundamentally about giving children and teachers the skills to cope with the situation that they live in. This is one of our staff doing the same thing with the teachers, because working in a situation where you have high levels of trauma, it is not only the children and it is not only the parents. The teachers themselves need a lot of care in order to be able to cope with the situation that they find themselves in. Something I liked best about the classroom intervention was that all of the teachers who did this calmed down their classrooms, made their classrooms better places to be, helped the children who had really serious symptoms of trauma, and all of them described the change in their classrooms in terms of better learning results. Maths teachers loved this intervention because it helped children concentrate, because it made the classroom a calmer place. And that is what will bring you better results from your students as well. But it wasn't in the classroom group that we had the most interesting results. It was in the number of nightmares that the group of most affected children had. This is from our first cohort of children. You can see how many average nightmares they started out having a week in week 1, and we tracked them for 16 weeks. Not every child went down to 0, but most of them did. Most of them, after the intervention, which is actually quite simple, would go down to no nightmares a week, 1 nightmare a week, and actually became capable of coping in the classroom. The big spike in the middle of this graph was when there was a sudden upturn in hostilities in Gaza in 2012, in March, and rockets went out and airstrikes came in, and all of the children who had reported having nightmares came back and said it's getting worse. But the children came back at the end of the group after they had finished working, and they came back and they said to their teachers and their counsellors, please can we do this again because we need some help. And when 11-year-old and 12-year-old children are able to self-regulate enough to come back and say, actually, I need help with this, that is also massively contributory to resilience. This was only the second cohort of the Better Learning program that we've done. We've been working with UNRWA and the Ministry of Education in Gaza, and now also the West Bank, to roll out this program. And we have got the program down into a much better way of working, which I'd like to show you. So we have the first manual. The first manual is the classroom manual. As you can see on the left, we start out by doing teacher briefings, so that all of the teachers in the school understand the symptoms, the physical and emotional symptoms of trauma, the reactions that might be happening for them and for the children in their classes, and some basic calming exercises. And then we ask them if they would like to volunteer for training in the whole classroom manual. And we give them copies of the manual and train them to use the manual in each of their classes as they see fit. So then, as a classroom activity, they can use the manual at the start of a maths lesson to calm the children down before they start particularly difficult algebra. They can use it at the end of the day before the children go home. They can use it at the start of the day to get the children to focus on their lessons. But at the same time, we bring in the parents, because the parents are really key to this process. And if the parents don't understand what's going on at school and what's going on for their children, they won't support it. So we bring the parents in as well, and we have a conversation with them about how the body responds to frightening experiences, and what might go on for the children and for themselves around this. And we give them some of the interventions of the classroom manual. And from these groups, it's become very easy for us to identify which children are most affected by the nightmares. And those are the children we can then ask if they want to voluntarily join the actual nightmare groups. Now, the importance of the classroom manual, first of all, is this establishes a sense of safety and stability at school. It's important for calming and the ability to self-regulate, and it also leads to an increased sense of community. Lots of teachers report that one of the advantages of the classroom manual is they have a better relationship with their students. Then we have the nightmare manual. The nightmare manual we limit to after 3 months after the most traumatic event. That is to give children time to self-regulate and to normalize if they are going to be able to do so by themselves. If after 3 months they cannot self-regulate, they are still having nightmares, we bring them into the group sessions. The group sessions are psychoeducation. They're about coping strategies. First of all, they're about telling children that other children also have this problem. I'm not sure if it's just in Gaza, but lots of children are told that they should never talk about their nightmare, because if you talk about your nightmare, it will come true, which is terrifying to a child. So talking about the nightmare, explaining that you have nightmares, understanding that other children have this problem, doing breathing exercises to calm down, and really talking yourself into a state of calm. Then these are followed up with individual sessions with each child, with the teacher and the counselor. And they draw their nightmare, and they talk about a routine in the evening before they go to bed, so that they can talk to themselves before they go to sleep to help them stop having nightmares. For example, in one child that we talked to in Beit Hanun, he had seen his father killed in front of him. And every night he dreamt that his father came for him and wanted to take him with him. And he found this horribly upsetting, because he loved his father and he missed him terribly, but he didn't want to die. And so for a 10-year-old and 11-year-old to be coping with this by themselves is unimaginable. So one of the things that we did with that child was we gave him a conversation to have with his father before he went to sleep. So every night before he went to sleep, he would tell his father that he missed him and he loved him, but he didn't want to come with him tonight, and that he was safe and he was happy. And by going through that conversation in his head, he managed to program his brain not to have that nightmare. We generally find that 6 weeks of these group and individual sessions work with most of the children. If the children do not respond to this intervention, then we recommend them to have additional psychiatric support. And that's very important that there's a referral mechanism in place for that. After the sessions, we then do weekly follow-ups, just checking in with the children, making sure they're okay, and consolidation sessions. A few weeks after the groups and the individual sessions have finished, just to make sure that the children remember the exercises and how to do this themselves. Sorry. So when you look at this across a whole population, the classroom manual is really aimed at classroom level, and it can be used for teacher briefing, teacher exercises, classroom activity, and also parent sensitivity groups. And then the nightmare manual is specifically for children who have the most serious symptoms of trauma. And then there is a treatment option. And when you see a highly traumatized population, like the situation in Gaza, generally we say that across the population, 70% of the population would benefit from the intervention of the classroom manual. And it definitely can't do any harm. 20% of the population might benefit from the nightmare manual and its intense intervention, and 10% really should just be going to treatment. But because the children that we are accessing are already in school, honestly, they are not usually the 10% who should be going to treatment. Because if you've had chronic repetitive nightmares for that long, it takes a huge toll on your ability to stay in school and on your mental health. So I just wanted to share with you a story from one of the children that we worked with, who was asked what the most significant change of the program meant for her. And she said, "After the war in Gaza, I started having nightmares and seeing shadows and darkness all around me. I started rehabilitation sessions with the school counselor, and she gave us exercises and stress relief techniques. Every night I would practice these exercises before sleeping. During the group sessions, I began to realize that there are others having the same problems as me. I have now finished all the sessions. I feel more confident. I don't suffer from nightmares anymore. Last night I had a beautiful dream where my sisters and I were sitting under an apple tree with them falling on us in a very gentle way." The key learning from implementing this program really has been the extent to which this is a massively underreported problem in children in Gaza, and I assume further afield. That by doing this program, which was really about child well-being, teachers improved their relationship with the children exponentially. There was a huge improvement in the relationship with the children. And what the teachers and the counselors learnt to do was embedded. When we talked to them 2 or 3 years after they took part in this program, they had already taken the program, they had changed it slightly, and they had developed it. Oh, sorry. But the challenges to it are this. We were very lucky working with UNRWA and the Ministry of Education in Gaza. They have a robust and well-organized education system. They have school counselors. They have well-trained teachers. And without those people, it would not have been possible to make this work properly. You really need a good framework to be able to hang the intervention on it. We encountered a lot of problems around the question of who is qualified to do this. This intervention has been written so that teachers and school counselors can do it. But lots of people working in mental health feel that if you don't have a doctorate in psychiatry, then you shouldn't be touching this. I think the reality is that the scale of the problem is so huge, it requires all of us to work on this issue. And we do not need to be psychiatrists to actually be invested in children's well-being, and that will improve our education system. We also had lots of challenges about, we're an education program. Is this education? My feeling is it's very much education. It's about making sure that children are able to stay in school, and the most vulnerable children are able to stay in school. But there are lots of challenges to this. Lots of people see this intervention as protection, mental health. Personally, I feel it's very definitely education, but I'm a bit biased. So. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Laura. We really appreciate your efforts in this. إذا نشكر لورا مارشال من المجلس النرويجي للاجئين. قصص كانت جدا مؤثرة، ونحن دائما بنتمنى السلام والأمان لأطفالنا ببيوتهم بمدارسهم. رح ناخذ هلا كوفي بريك، نطلع الكوفي بريك اند نتوركينج من هلا للساعة 4:15. نرجع على 4:15 وبنكمل. رح يكون معنا على سكايب، رح يكون معنا محمد أبو سليمان من معهد تامر المجتمعي عبر سكايب، نتعرف على تجربتهم وكمان تجربتين في مجال النشاطات في الدعم النفسي والاجتماعي في حالات الطوارئ. تفضلوا على الكوفي بريك والنتوركينج، بنلتقي على 4:15. شكراً.